Yesterday we learned about the properties of rectangles, and today we're diving a little deeper into those properties and using them to solve equations. You filled out this table yesterday. This table outlines all of the properties of a rectangle. If you take a look, each category, if you see here, parts of the rectangle are grouped together. So here, in all of these, we're talking about the sides, the sides, the sides. So let's put a little bracket over here and write sides. Here we're talking about angles, angles. Let's put a bracket here and write angles. And then here we talk about diagonals, diagonals, diagonals. Let's put a bracket here and write diagonals. Don't worry about the last thing for now. Don't worry about this part for now, okay? So see how we grouped the properties of the rectangles into three pieces: sides, angles, and diagonals. So now we're going to use this chart in order to determine the properties in problems. You'll see here. We're given this sample problem here. It says angle BAE, so angle BAE, so it's going to be this one here, is 2x plus 30, 2x plus 30. And angle EAD, so angle let's do another color, EAD is this angle here, and that is 3x plus 10. So look at the picture. We took the information from the question and we put it on the figure. Step one. So now we're going to use our table down here in order to determine what property we will use to set up our equation. So up here we're dealing with what? Sides, angles, or diagonals? We're dealing with angles, right? So I'm going to look at the angle properties. Listed it says opposite angles are congruent. Well, that's good to know, but that doesn't really help us. It only tells us about this angle. It doesn't say anything about C. So let's not use that one. And the second property says that rectangles have 4 right angles. That definitely helps because now we know how to set up our equation. If this angle here equals 90 degrees, our equation becomes obvious. So let's write our property that we're going to use up here. Has 4 right angles. And I took this property right from the table down here. So let's set up our equation. 2x plus 30 plus 3x plus 10 equals 90. Combine like terms. I have plus 30 plus 10, I get plus 40. I have plus 3x plus 2x, I have 5x minus 40, minus 40 from both sides to get x by itself. I get 5x equals 50, divide by 5, x equals 10. Am I finished? No, I need to find angle BAE. The measure of angle BAE is 2x plus 30. So now I substitute this value of x into the equation right here. And I get 2 times 10 plus 30. 2 times 10 is 20 plus 30 equals 50. Angle BAE equals 50 degrees. And that's the first one. Let's do the second problem. On the second problem, remember what we did last time? First, we put the information in the figure. Then we found the property that we were going to use. Then we made our equation. Then we substituted and solved. Let's use that same strategy to solve this one here. So the problem says UZ, so UZ here is x plus 21, okay, and ZS here is 3x minus 15. Okay, so I put my information into the figure. What I want to ultimately find is US, which is this whole line here. Okay, so what are we talking about? Are we talking about sides, angles, or diagonals? We're talking about diagonals, right? So our figure shows two parts of a diagonal, the red line here and the green line here. The rectangle properties say that diagonals bisect each other. Diagonals bisect each other. So it makes 4 equal pieces. This piece is equal to this piece is equal to this piece, and this piece is equal to this piece. That is the rectangle property I will use, so I'm going to put it up here. The property is that diagonals bisect each other. That's the property I'm going to use. I found it on the table here. So now I'm going to set my equation. I have x plus 21 equals 3x minus 15 because the rectangle properties tell me that this piece here is equal to this piece here. And now I just solve. And I get minus x here, minus x here. I get 36 equals 2x divided by 2 divided by 2, x equals 18. Am I finished? No, I need to find US. So now US equals this whole piece here. So I need to add x plus 21 and 3x minus 15. I know that x is 18, so I'm going to substitute it into the problem here. And I get 18 plus 21 plus 3 times 18 minus 15 equals 78. US equals 78. And the property that we used was that diagonals bisect each other. Let's do one last problem. The problem says if the measure of angle SRT is x squared minus 9. Oh, I'm sorry, this should be a plus. X squared plus 9. And the measure of angle UTR, oh, that's a bad line. UTR is 2x plus 44. Find x. Okay? So here we have an angle here. Let's do a different color. We have an angle here and an angle here. Let's look and see at the angles part of our table what it says there. It says opposite angles are congruent. Well, that's good to know, but we don't know the rest of this angle here. All we know is the part up top. So it doesn't really help that opposite angles are congruent since we don't know the missing piece or the complement of the angle we're talking about. Let's look at the next property. It says it has 4 right angles. Okay, good to know, but we still don't know this piece over here, so we're not going to use that one. Okay, this is a little tricky now. If we're not using angles, we need to start thinking of a creative way to solve this problem, right? What if I told you, look at the sides on this rectangle. What if I drew them over here? We know that this side is parallel to this side because opposite sides are parallel. So, what if I told you that I could draw a diagonal like this, where it looks like this is R and this is T? The angles that we're looking for in the rectangle are this angle here and this angle here. This is a transversal, and these angles inside, the red and green angle, are called alternate interior angles. And those angles are congruent. And we know that because of the transversal rules. Remember big, small, big, small? These are both small angles, so they are both congruent. So the property that we're going to use for this one is two properties. First, the fact that opposite sides are parallel. And then we have to further explain how that helped us write the equation. That told us that alternate interior angles are congruent. So now our equation becomes clear. If the right angle up here is congruent to this angle here, we can just set them equal to each other and then solve. So immediately you should recognize that this x squared here means that this is a quadratic equation and we need to get it into standard form in order to solve. So let's move some things around in order to get this into this form. So we can subtract 9 here, or actually no, I don't want to make x squared negative. I'm just going to start moving everything over to the other side. So let's move this 44 over here. Let's move this 2x over here. And we get x squared minus 2x. Wait, hold the phone. This needs to be a negative. Okay, x squared minus 2x minus 35. And this is our quadratic equation that we work with. Now, you can either factor this, or you can use the quadratic formula. Now, factoring is the easier way, so I'm just going to use the quadratic formula just so you can see the trickier way, or the way that you use if you don't have perfect squares. Let me see if I can find a picture of this so it's not so messy. Hold on just a second. I cleaned this up a bit and I found a nice, neat representation of the quadratic formula. So now, in order to plug things into the quadratic formula, we have to identify A, B, and C in our equation above. A up here is 1, B is negative 2, and C is negative 35. Now let's plug them in here. We get x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 35. And we get x equals negative 2 gives me positive 2 plus the square root of negative 2 squared gives me 4. 4 times 1 gives me 4. Times negative 35 gives me 140, minus the negative 140 gives me plus 140. In here I get 4 plus 140, right? All over 2a. All over 2. So I get x equals 2 plus the square root of 144, which is 12, over 2. So 2 plus 12 is 14, divided by 2 gives me 7. Over here, I do x equals 2 minus the square root of 144, because I already solved it over here, all over 2. So the square root of 144 is 12. 2 minus 5 gives me negative 10. Negative 10 divided by 2 gives me negative 5. And my two answers are x equals 7, x equals negative 5.